Before we begin, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, because what you are about to hear is not just a story, it is a real tragedy that unfolded in front of lying voices, cameras, and a crowd that never realized they were watching someone die. A true, even forever remembered as the Nintendo at her drinking contest mystery or hold your Wii. For a why, and it is one of those chilling reminders that real life can sometimes be more horrific than any urban legend whispered on the internet. It all started in January of the house and in Sacramento, California, when the popular radio station the end announced what seemed like a playful start morning show contest to give away one of the most desired items in America. At that time, the brand new Nintendo Wii console, so rare that people camped outside. Stores fought in essels and paid treble prices on the bay just to bring one home. And so when the hosts advertised a contest called Hold Your Wii for a Wii, dozens of listeners showed up, excited, loving, unsuspecting of the danger, ready to drink as much water as possible without urinating, fating the worst they would suffer was discomfort or embarrassment, not realizing that the very act of hydration was deadly. Inside, the studio contestants lined up with small water bottles, each instructed to drink quickly and keep holding their bladder. And as the hours passed, the atmosphere was light-hearted and smay jokes, staff chuckled, contestants squirmed in their chairs. But slowly, something sinister began to seep in, a shadow no one wanted to acknowledge. Because warnings did come, phone calls poured into the station, listeners telling that this was dangerous, that water intoxication was real, that people could die. But the warnings were brushed aside, with cruel laughter, one famously mocking a caller with the chilling line, "Yeah, but we're not doctors." Right among those sitting in the studio was a 2-year-old mother of 3, Jennifer Strange, who wanted nothing more than to win the Wii for her children, a gift she couldn't afford in star is but hoped to claim through endurance, who's suffering through this ridiculous game. And as the bottle stacked higher and her stomach bloated painfully, she smelled through the torment, trying to remain strong. But her small head thus stormed inside her body because the excess water was already diluting the sodium in her blood, already poisoning her brain, already setting in motion the death sentence disguised as fun. And as the contest dragged on, Jennifer began to show visible signs. She clutched her head, complained of a splitting headache, her belly visibly swollen, her body sending frantic idols of distress. But still the contest went on, slaughtering listeners entertained, no one stepping in because ratings were higher than ever, the spectacle intoxicating, and Jennifer, determined and desperate, pushed herself until her body could no longer bear it. Eventually she gave up, leaving the studio pale and trembling, telling staff and fellow contestants that she didn't feel well, and she drove herself home, unaware that within hours she would collapse and die on her bathroom floor, her lungs filling with fluid from the swelling in her brain, her life stolen not by violence or accident, but by negligence, by the cruel lovelessness of a publicity stunt gone too far. And when the news broke that evening that Jennifer Strange had died from acute water intoxication, the nation was horrified, and what had been a silly-sounding contest suddenly transformed into one of the darkest scandals in broadcasting history. Lawsuits followed swiftly, with Jennifer's grieving family suing the radio station for wrongful death. And in court, the takes of the show were played, slowing at her discomfort, mocking medical warnings, joking about how contestants' stomachs looked pregnant with water, their casual cruelty occurring in a courtroom filled with tears, and jurors as stunned as they realized how preventable the death had been, how easy it would have been to stop the contest, to heed the warnings, to save Jennifer's life. But greed and recklessness had carried the day. Verdict came. The radio station and its owners were found liable, and Jennifer's family was awarded $1 million in damages. Yet no amount of money could replace a mother torn from her 3 children, and the haunting truth lingered that laughter can sometimes mascara, that entertainment can sometimes become execution, and that the line between a game and death is thinner than anyone dares to believe. That those involved were fired. The station lost its license, and yet the memory of that morning lingers like a ghost in Sacramento, whispered in journalism classes, legal studies, and Nintendo collector circles, because the contest that should have been remembered as a fun gimmick to win a console became forever known as the moment when water became poison, when negligence became murdered in disguise, when a mother's love for her children pushed her into a game that no one should apply. And what makes the story even more chilling is the eerie irony that the prize was a Nintendo Wii, a console that asked players to move the breather to live healthier lives. Yet to win it, Jennifer Strange was forced to die to this day whenever people search for the strangest contests ever held. The words "hold your Wii for a wiser face" again and again, a title that sounds what a joke, but hides a tragedy, a game that should never have been played, a story that demands to be told. So it is never repeated, and so I tell you again, subscribe. Stay tuned, because there are more mysteries, more forgotten tragedies, more truth stranger than fiction waiting to be uncovered. But remember this one: every time you hear laughter on the radio or watch a stunt go too far, Jennifer Strange's last act was to play along, to smile through the pain, to hope for joy for her children and the world. Edgar was silence, negligence, and death.